Hello guys and welcome to my review slash post-game discussion of Demon Roots. My name's Aiden and recently I played Demon Roots. You can actually check out the full playthrough on the channel if you are interested in watching that. And yeah, if you're interested in weeb games and visual novels, feel free to check out the channel. That's primarily what we focus on. But yeah, Demon Roots. I usually do this, a little talk after we beat something on the channel. And I mean, this was a fun project, man. Talk about bang for your buck. I think this is around $20 Canadian. Let me just double check that. But we put in, I think, around 60 hours, like a little over 60. But let me just confirm that. Also, this is obviously, you can probably tell this is unscripted, so if you have any questions or if I missed a specific point you want me to talk about, just leave a comment and I'll just respond to it there. 67 hours, and the game was about $22 Canadian. It's on sale right now, maybe for Black Friday week. That is crazy, considering the gaming landscape nowadays is like $80 to $100 for a new game. This is pretty good. But yeah, let's talk about it a bit. And I think I usually like to go through some of the negatives I found about the game first. And Demon Roots doesn't really have a lot of negatives for me. I think it was a great game. There are two things when I think about negatives, the negatives of the game. There's like two main things I have, and the first one is assets. It is an RPG Maker game. It is a single dev, so obviously I give them a lot of slack, but there is a lot of reused assets from other H games. By reused assets, I mean sprites, like the default sprites. There's, all the main characters have unique sprites, but a lot of the default sprites, icons, stuff like that is all, I don't know why, but a lot of RPG Maker H games all have these assets, the same sprites and stuff, so they must all have it's either probably just the default thing on RPG Maker or just a really popular pack people buy. But yeah, I mean, it depends how many RPG Maker games you play, so it might not be that noticeable, but I kind of recognize it right away. It doesn't really bother me. Again, using these assets, let single devs like the Demon Roots guy, what's his name, Akaimoto or something like that, produce really great games. So I don't mind it that much, but it's just something to point out. Obviously, I would have preferred more unique graphics, but it's really just nitpicking. I gotta find some negatives to say, right? But I think the actual biggest negative of the game for me is balancing issues. I think the game is too easy, mainly with the trash mobs, but in general I think it could have been a little harder. Now, balancing is a very hard very hard thing to do in game design, and it's really hard to properly perfectly balance stuff. You rarely see it, but I think for trash mobs in particular, probably could have either made them a little stronger or made your characters a little weaker. Because the more I think about it, I think that what's it called? I think maybe the problem is the characters were just too strong, but it's a very fine line, because you don't want your characters to be too weak, and you don't want the trash mobs to feel too strong because they're just trash mobs, right? But in the final dungeon, literally, the trash mobs pose literally zero difficulty, which I've never seen in a JRPG. Some of the types of the trash mobs in the final dungeon actually did 0 damage to Angie. So I think there had to be some adjustment there some sort of balance. Like, I don't think you can have a final dungeon where there's literally no threat at all. And I like to think in my playthrough I didn't grind too much. I actually think they did, like, besides the balancing, I think what they did with the trash mobs was pretty good. They gave them their like special spawns, like sort of how they do it in Dragon Quest, where it's not like just random encounters. You have to actually interact with them, so you can just run past them, or there's the bat stab bonus where if you proactively attack them from behind, you get a advantage in battle. So I think that's a great way to balance it. I probably do wish they didn't respawn like as soon as you leave a room. I think maybe if they kept them permanently dead until you left the area, then they respawn again, probably would have been the best way. But again, it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, I don't think I never like spent like time just grinding for grinding, but I did have a tendency to proactively attack the trash mobs just because again there's incentive to do that. So, but yeah, it's hard. I just think the game was a little easy. I think that it has to be the characters are too strong, right? Like Angie is probably the strongest tank I've ever seen in a JRPG. I love Angie, but little too strong. But yeah, that's probably it. Maybe make the difficulty a little harder. And I just checked now. There's two difficulty options, normal and cinematic, which I like. I hate like multiple difficulty options. So having like a baseline difficulty is great. The only like time I do like difficulty options is like the cinematic, the story mode for people who aren't really gamers, just want to experience the story. But I don't like normal, hard, advanced, hardcore. Just give me like one difficulty. Otherwise it makes me like feel weird. If you're not playing the mats, then you feel like lesser or something. But yeah, that's my main issue. Little too easy. But going on to the good, obviously I think the main selling point of the game is the story. It's honestly an amazing fantasy epic. Both like some newer ideas and some classical ideas. Like I love grand scale fantasy. Like the idea of taking over a whole continent is super fun to me. I prefer that over like smaller scale stuff. So that was great. I'm also such a sucker for like god final villains, like with godlike powers. Like I really like the Emperor's character, both the backstory and the villain himself. I thought was great. Obviously, extremely strong cast. Both like that. Usually for a cast of characters, right? They're pretty tropey, and I still think they're pretty tropey in this, but they did it really well. Great like chemistry with all the characters. Like story wise, this game is so good, so good. That's why it honestly kind of leaked into mainstream a bit, which you rarely see for any H games. Like, well, I'm not like an expert at them, but besides Rants, I've never heard of one really leaking into mainstream. And I think it's because the creator of the game really did make it a good game. Like for H games, I think there's a balance. You can either heavily loaded on, the H stuff, and make gameplay like a secondary thing, which they're fine for what they are. Obviously, they're for a different audience, but I think if you can tastefully like make a really good game with H elements, I think that's like the perfect blend of like what I want to play from an H game. And but again, I don't think like even like really good games like this will ever go mainstream, just because even if you play the censored version or whatever, even the story itself, even if you skip like all the H scenes, it's very sexual in nature, right? Which isn't a bad thing, but it'll never reach that mainstream popularity, which is fine. I don't think the creators are really intending it for that. And I always say this for products where Cause I have talked to a couple of people, not about this specifically, but about like certain stories or games or movies where they're like, maybe they should have done something else differently or like make it a little more inclusive. I don't think stories need to be made for everyone. Sometimes they can just be made for like a certain audience and just like really refine it into a good story for something like that. But I don't really want to go into that. Anyways, story A plus. Love the characters. Love the whole scale of things. The world building was fantastic. Um, Definitely one of my favorites so far in fantasy gaming. I haven't played a lot of JRPGs. I'm still upping the catalog, but I love the world. It's definitely like maybe top 5 for now. Like I think I like the Rance world a little more, but this they really fleshed it out. Like there's an impressive amount of detail to the story compared to other like H games, which is I mean it took 3 years for a single developer. You can just see the heart and soul in it, which is great. I love to see it. You're like Aiden, what's your favorite character? I mean they're all great. Obviously, I'm just gonna say Death Polka. I think she's a great main character. But if we're talking about side characters, I feel like any if you told me like any of the side characters like as your favorite, I wouldn't blame you because they're all great in their own way. I think I'm an Angie enjoyer, not just because she's super OP, but I always just liked Angie. But I think in terms of story, maybe Diana has a bit of a edge in writing to her because she has her own like little subplot going. And I'm not really a big fan of isekai stuff in general, but I think using it as a subplot and really like mixing it into the main, like having its own story itself and like mixing that into the plot with like the biological weapons and Diablo. Like I think that's a great way to do isekai instead of making it the focus. But I'm not done. I was about to go into an isekai rant. There's no point really. It's just I usually find that a large majority of the isekai stories that like center on it is used for like lazy world building because it's like, oh, I'm a person from Earth. I went into this world. Now I can have everyone explain to me how the mechanics work instead of just organically telling your story. But I think they did it great in this game. So yeah, like story elements, character elements, all amazing. Gameplay elements. Obviously, it's an RPG maker, so there are restrictions. It is turn-based with initiative or speed, so it's not just like static, like you go, your opponent goes. There's a speed factor to it, which I like. I think every turn-based game made in modern day should use the speed factor at least. I think using static is kind of crazy, kind of crazy in today's gaming standards. But I thought it, like, even though it's a very simple game and then a little easy, I think it's extremely clean. Like, it is a really fun experience. With the double 2 resources with TP and mana, I thought TP was really balanced, and I really enjoyed how fast, like, it's more of a fast-paced resource, while mana was like the static slowing down. I think mana was a little OP though, just because I'm thinking throughout my whole playthrough I probably like used a mana potion once the whole time, which is a little unbalanced. They probably should have balanced mana a bit more, especially with like Sarasa. Like I think she had a spell which like made you like lose HP for mana. I don't think I've ever used it, just because you never run out of mana. But again, it's just like small balancing issues like that, which is just hard to nail down. But I thought, again, combat felt very clean, very satisfying. Again, the mob grind, for better or worse, very easy. Love the backstab mechanics. Some of the boss mechanics were really fun too, especially the extra bosses. I thought they were like the perfect amount of difficulty. Like I think I had more difficulty with them than the final boss. Though I do love the idea of a boss with like how many? It had like 6 or 7 forms or stages. I love stuff like that when there's like super long stages on a boss. Or not super long, just like a lot of them. Really adds on to the epic feeling of it. But yeah, it's a very clean turn-based game. Obviously, if you're not really into turn-based RPGs, then it might not be for you, but very, very cool experience. But my favorite part of the gameplay, which I was super impressed with, was actually itemization. I think along with balancing, itemization is one of the hardest things to like do right in a video game. And obviously itemization is a lot more subjective compared to like balancing, because people like different stuff obviously, but itemization, it's always hard. Like sometimes you want to put like a crafting element to it. Like I'm bringing up these two because these are two major JRPGs we played on the channel, or streamed. It was stream playthroughs. Final Fantasy X and Tales of Berseria, both really good games. You know, I feel like most people would put Final Fantasy X in like one of their, either their favorite Final Fantasy or in the like upper tiers of it. By the way, only Final Fantasy I've ever beaten, so but I loved it. I thought it was great. The itemization in Final Fantasy X actually awful. It was my either my least or second least favorite thing about the game. I fucking hated it. I hated interacting with it. I thought it was bullshit. And Tales of Berseria, again, another great game. I didn't realize when playing it, but a lot of people consider it the best Tales, like the best modern Tales games. Which, you know, I thought it was great. I actually think Demon Roots is better than Tales of Berseria. Don't shoot the messenger. I think it's like a tier below Demon Roots and Final Fantasy X, but it's still a great game. I really enjoyed the gameplay and the characters and stuff. But my god, the itemization in that game was so fucking bad. It was actually like I can't even describe it. I can probably talk like for an hour and everything I hated about it, but it was just a super grindy craft / RNG based system. It was not good. So, you know, I think crafting's hit or miss. I think from what I've seen in JRPGs, I don't prefer crafting based mechanics in them, and I rather prefer them in like ARPGs like PoE or Diablo, just because in those games like grinding's a lot easier because you like clear a screen of enemies in a couple of seconds, while in JRPGs, you know, you have to load into the fight, and it, you know, even if you're really strong, it'll still take you like maybe 30 seconds if you one-shot them, because you get like the reward screen after. I just don't think those are great myths for a JRPG. And then you have stuff like Demon Roots, where it's a very simple, you know, you get static weapons, you can't affect their stats. But a lot of issues, at least I've seen with JRPGs, is that when they go the static item route, itemization is super boring, because you just put the best in slot weapon. That's just like, oh, I got my silver sword and my silver armor. Oh, I just got a Mithro sword and a Mithro armor. It's just better stats. I'll put it on. And it's very linear, especially in older JRPGs. But what Demon Roots did was really good, because obviously, yes, there are stat checks. You're gonna get those all the time in any games with items. But I feel like there's a lot of build variety. Like, it's not just, oh, this sword's better, and we'll just keep using it until we get a better sword. There are, like, different builds you can use. Like, whether you want to have an AoE weapon for the clear or a single target weapon. And, like, stats and weapons matter. Like, I can imagine, like, my endgame build would be different from other people's endgame builds, just depending on what they like. And I thought that's really good. I think that's how you should do a static one, where you have, like, a variety of weapons that offer different benefits. Like, do you want just a really good stat weapon, or do you want to use something like the super sludge dagger, which is a double hit with poison proc? Like, I was really impressed with the itemization. And it's something I think matters a lot to gameplay. Maybe it differs from person to person, but I thought it was really good. So yeah, that's what I really liked about build variety and stuff like that. And you know, I think at the end of the day, it's not gonna change gameplay super much. Like, it's not gonna change the core gameplay of each character, the builds. Maybe it would for some, but I just like the option of having some ability to customize your build. So yeah, Really love that aspect of it. But yeah, gameplay. I thought they did an amazing job. Maybe up the difficulty a bit, but in general, super impressed with that. What else is there? Music straight. I really love the more techno themed ones, but in general, love the music. You're hearing the music right here. This is Blossom. Blossom was a great song. The This is what they used for the polka. The polka when she first turned into her paso state, right? That shit was epic. So many good moments in Demon Roots. Arts, we already kind of talked about the reused assets, but the CGs were pretty good. I do wish there were more CGs. I think there was kind of a lack of CGs, but I think I think any games that use CGs, either JRPGs or visual novels, I think in any review I'd say add more CGs. You can literally never have enough CGs. I'm a CG enjoyer. I guess I should talk about the H elements of it, since it is part H game, even though any H game I play on the channel, I don't really play for the H stuff, because I'm recording, obviously. It'd just be weird. But I thought they were pretty good. Again, very tastefully done, where about like 90% of the H scenes are in like optional content, while there are like a couple just spread throughout the main story. Thought it was pretty tasteful. Again, like Bad End, obviously some pretty hardcore stuff in the Bad End dungeon. You don't have to do that, man. You literally don't have to do it. It only gives you like it does give you some benefits, but it's nothing like major. You can probably just skip it. And which is good. And if you are into it, then have fun in the Bad End dungeon. Same with Do Re Mi. You really don't have to do anything. There are like some incentives if you do it, but again, it's completely optional, which I think it's a pretty good way of doing things. I mean, I don't really have anything else to say. I mean, good scenes, I guess. Good scenes. What else? I think we covered most things. I don't know, it's just a very good game. Extremely, for a $20 game, I'll take it all day, man. Great story, great gameplay. Just a great turn-based JRPG with a very lovable cast. And I am definitely excited whenever Teen Zetsu gets released. I do want to see like the other side, which focuses on, I guess, the human resistance when the demons go crazy, right? It sounds very fun. But yeah, that's it for me. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully you enjoyed. Again, if I missed any aspects of the game you want me to talk about, just feel free to leave a question. I can answer that. And then I'm just free forming it. I think I went through everything I wanted to talk about. But yeah, this great game. Would recommend if you are into turn-based stuff and you don't mind, or if you're an H game gamer, I guess, if you don't mind H scenes. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't recommend. But yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. And yeah, if you are interested in watching the series, feel free to watch it on the channel. Feel free to check out the other stuffs. We are going to be playing another JRPG, replacing Demon Roots for every Saturday at noon EST. I haven't 100% decided yet, but there's a decent chance it's going to be Chrono Trigger, just because I can't think of anything else, and I don't know, people say that's like the best JRPG ever, so might as well try it out and see how it stats. But yeah, as always, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed, don't forget to like and or subscribe for future content. Later.